There's a lot of people that just now started following us that don't realize this is our 5th year of doing this. And, they come and go, but the culture remains the same.
That was UH Cougars head coach Kelvin Sampson yesterday after his team trounced SMU in what was almost like a play-in game for them as they came to the Fertitta Center looking to pick up a quality win and possibly punch their ticket to the NCAA tournament. And right from jump, it was all U of H. We'll get into the Cougs and March Madness as things roll along on the Fox 26 Sports Stream. As always, I'm Sal Manine, sports producer here at Fox 26. We appreciate you coming along for the ride. We do this every Monday night just after 7 o'clock, talking all things Houston sports, recapping the week that was, looking ahead to what is coming up. And it's going to be a very busy week on the sports landscape, starting with U of H. Yesterday was the first of 4 games they will play in the span of 1 week because, remember, very early in conference play, they had a matchup with Cincinnati postponed due to COVID protocols. They rescheduled it. The only time that both schools could make it work was here in the final week of the regular season. So the Cougs, after playing on Sunday, are right back at it tomorrow night against Cincinnati, then senior night on Thursday, and then they close up the regular season on Sunday when they visit Memphis, another team that is looking for an NCAA tournament bid and will be throwing everything they got at the Cougs. You heard Kelvin Sampson right there. This is nothing new for U of H, though. It's now going on year 5 that they have been comfortably in the field of 68 as you hit the final week of the regular season. And they have a chance tomorrow if they beat Cincinnati at home, which everything on paper says that they should, to clinch the American Athletic Conference regular season crown for the 3rd time in the last 4 years. Here's a look at the standings at the top of the AAC. And you see U of H at 13-2 in conference play with 3 games left to play. All the teams below them have only 2 games left. SMU had a game canceled because of COVID early on in the season. They were not able to reschedule it. And because of that loss yesterday, it means they cannot catch the Cougs in the standings, provided U of H is able to pull out a win over one of its final 3 contests. You see, the only way that U of H does not win the American is if they lose out and then some other teams like SMU or Memphis win out. But it's all on the table right there for U of H. We were at practice earlier today, and all the players yesterday, they were a bit reticent to talk about going after a conference crown. Not the case today. So we will hear from the UH players tonight on Fox 26 News at 9. We will also have more from Kelvin Sampson as he gets ready for, as I mentioned, a busy week ahead of him for he and his staff, as this is those final 3 games that I talked about. Tuesday, it's a 8 o'clock tip tomorrow night at the Fertitta Center. Then Thursday, a 6 o'clock tip. Again, that is senior day. So if you're a UH fan, you want to get there early to take in all the senior day festivities. Fabian White Jr., an Atascocita alum, Kyler Edwards, the transfer from Texas Tech, Tajay Moore, the transfer from Cal State Bakersfield, and Josh Carlton, the transfer from UConn, will all be honored pregame as they get set to play their final contest Thursday night against Temple. And then, as I mentioned, Sunday, the Cougs travel to Memphis to take on Penny Hardaway and a Memphis Tigers team that is desperate for quality wins, and they don't get much higher quality than U of H right there. Let's hear another one from Kelvin Sampson about the fact that his team is in this position as the calendar's about to flip to March come tomorrow, and everything seems to be working for a team that around Christmas time, everybody in the college basketball world was wondering how was U of H going to get it done, losing not only Tremont Mark, arguably their top playmaker and most versatile player for the entire year due to season-ending surgery, but then finding out shortly after that that Marcus Sasser, their best player, their top scorer, the guy who was going to be option number 1 for this team, that he went down late in December with another season-ending injury, and yet all U of H has done is put itself on the cusp of yet another American Conference crown. Here's Kelvin Sampson.
Our teams usually play our best basketball about this time of the year. It's not easy to do that. It's going to be a trying week. It's going to be a tough week, and I don't have a script for it. We'll just take each day and do the best we can with it.
So again, they've kind of made it look easy, and you look back at Kelvin Sampson's track record over his entire career, whether it's going all the way back to even Montana days, but certainly Wazoo and OU and Indiana. He's always, once he gets his system in there and is able to establish his culture, it's something that travels. And that was certainly the case yesterday against SMU in a game in which the Cougs were not playing their best offensively as far as knocking down shots, but they absolutely destroyed the Mustangs on the glass, got after it on the offensive glass, especially as has been the MO since Kelvin Sampson arrived in U of H in terms of they're the number one offensive rebounding team in the country, and that's what they needed to grind out a win against SMU. They jumped out to a huge lead in the first half. SMU cut it to single digits early in the second half, and then U of H just put the clamps down. At one point, SMU had pulled to within 8 early in the second half, and then U of H out-rebounded them 15-0 over the next 7 minutes, and all of a sudden that 8-point lead ballooned to 21, and the game was out of reach. And so here, Coach Sampson and his team finds itself on the verge of an American League title yet again. Here's what a coach had to say before practice earlier today.
Winning is a destination. The journey is what's most important. How we're going to create good habits on a day-to-day basis. If something happens once, it might be an accident. Happens twice, could be a coincidence. But when it happens 3 or more times, it becomes a habit.
And UH now in the habit of winning titles, and not only would a win give them the AAC crown, which is always nice for players like winning things. They like having trophies, banners, things that you can hang up. And especially when you think about where this program was just 7-8 years ago when Coach Sampson first arrived, to have a lot of things in your building that you can point to and say, yeah, we won that. That's all well and good. But perhaps the bigger thing is it would secure the number 1 overall seed in the AAC conference tourney, get U of H some time off. They've pretty much already secured a bye, so they wouldn't even play until I believe it's next Friday even, but puts them in the driver's seat to be the favorites in the AAC tournament, which again, you're probably going to face the likes of an SMU and or Memphis again there, teams that are scrapping, trying to get themselves into the field of 68. And so U of H, this is when your money is made. This is what Kelvin Sampson and his whole staff and all the players that have come to U of H in recent years, this is what they've been able to build. That now March is when you truly make your mark. The reason everybody thinks about the Dukes and Kansas and Kentuckys of the world is because those are the teams, when you turn on the NCAA tournament, that you always see making runs, getting to Final Fours, playing for national titles. And so U of H did it a year ago. Everybody counted them out when they had a bunch of injuries this season, and yet now they position themselves to make another tourney run. So things are about to get very exciting in the college basketball world. Where they are not exciting is in the baseball world, because professional baseball as we know it is not happening. Today was the deadline for the players union and the owners to reach a new collective bargaining agreement before they would have to start shortening the regular season and not play a full 162 games. The MLB opening day is set for the end of March. And again, March 1 is tomorrow, which means that 4 weeks from Thursday is when the first regular season game is slated to be played. Now, by all reports, They are still meeting. They've gone back and forth down there. They're in Florida at one of the team facilities, the St. Louis Cardinals training facility, where the two sides are negotiating back and forth. I believe they're on negotiating session or meeting number 5 today, and that is based on the latest reports that they still cannot come to an agreement. Reportedly earlier this year, the MLB, that's the owners, said to the players that they had no qualms with chopping off a month of games if they did not get their way. So the owners seem content to miss games, which again just boggles the mind after you saw the type of backlash they had 2 years ago when the pandemic first hit, and all of a sudden they couldn't come to an agreement, and we were left with this very bizarre, awkward 60-game season, but they couldn't reach an agreement then. Everybody has known this has been coming, but it still seems like MLB is firmly entrenched. The player side has been seemingly making more and more concessions, trying to get to an agreement. They all want to play, but as of right now, there is nothing in the cards that says they're going to start on time. So we will see what happens. As I'm looking right now on just perusing Twitter, and all the latest reports is that, yes, they just finished a 5th meeting. All right, we're checking in with Chandler Rome, who covers the Astros for the Houston Chronicle, and he just reported 10 minutes ago that meeting number 5 is over. And looks like ESPN is reporting that an MLB spokesperson says the two sides will keep negotiating and meeting. So maybe at some point in the wee hours, they get this done. Maybe it even extends into Tuesday and they end up being able to go and actually play a full 162 games. But as of right now, baseball, which has already seen its popularity wane over the last several years, if not couple decades, is continuing to stomp all over itself by not being able to figure this thing out in time and not give baseball fans what they want. And even if they do come to an agreement sometime in the next few hours or days, it's still going to make it difficult for teams to all of a sudden have this abbreviated spring training. There have been some reports from players, coaches saying that, pitchers really need a good 2+ months to wind themselves up and be ready to go at their full tilt. So if they only have 3 or 4 weeks, you may see pitchers that are only able to, out the gate, pitch 50, 60 pitches as a starter. So we will keep an eye on how all that goes. But as of right now, they are still meeting. They are planning to continue negotiating, but there is no deal. And we are at the 11th hour now. So that's what's going on in the baseball front. Before we finally wrap up, check in with the Rockets, who lost another tough one yesterday at home to the LA Clippers. They had 3 different looks to tie or take the lead in the final minute, but were unable to get it done. That's their 9th loss in a row. They've lost 13 out of 14 as they continue to find themselves at the bottom of the standings in the league, which, again, may not ultimately be the worst thing when we're talking about this come lottery selection night. If that's what ultimately helps, a few more ping pong balls drop your way if you're a Rockets fan, and you can end up with a very high, if not the number 1 overall pick. If there was a silver lining to what we've seen the last, not just weekend since the All-Star break ended, but really the month of February, it's that Jalen Green finally is starting to look like himself again. Remember, he had that lengthy layoff after he was injured back in like mid-November. And then once he got back, it took him a while to find his shooting stroke, fell into a really bad shooting slump. Numbers look bad, but over the last 10 games, this is basically the month of February, the 10 games that he played in, his numbers look good and look a lot more akin to what you were anticipating when he was taken 2nd overall. 16.5 points, better than 2.5 assists and rebounds per game, not turning the ball over. And the big one, if you're a Rockets fan, is the shooting numbers have all jumped up, shooting 44% from the field, but especially from three-point range, now shooting better than 38% from deep, and that's on nearly 7 attempts per game. So it's not like, oh, he's only putting it up 1 or 2 times, and that's why the numbers are going up. That's what he was brought in as a guy who can score, as a guy who can make plays. And even though the dunk contest did not go his way or really anybody's way, it was an abysmal effort by pretty much everyone involved with the dunk contest, with just the way it played out. We've seen from Jalen Green over the last month that perhaps he is starting to turn a corner. And so as the Rockets hit this home stretch, there's just 22 games left in the regular season. The number one focus needs to be continue to develop Jalen Green and Alperen Şengün. Give them minutes, let them have the opportunities in big situations, and see what exactly you got from them. As I mentioned, the Rockets had 3 different chances to tie or take the lead in the final minute last night against the Clips, and with 11 seconds to go, it was Jalen Green who got a clean look at a 3 that would have tied it. Was just a bit long, but that's what you want to see from a kid who has only played in, I think it's 45 total games in the NBA, who just turned 20 years old at the beginning of this month. You want to see him step into those big spots and start to get that experience, because you want to see ultimately what you have. Just because you draft a guy in the top 5, in the top 1 or 2 even, doesn't mean that, all right, it's set in stone, we're ready to go. You found yourself a franchise cornerstone. You found somebody who can carry you through a playoff series and into the NBA Finals. I mean, look no further than the Phoenix Suns, who were there a year ago, or then the 76ers, who all of a sudden look even more resurgent now that James Harden is there and is back to being his old self. It takes time, and it may take a lot of lottery tickets that you got to scratch off. In this case, lottery picks that you have to make before you ultimately find that 1 or 2 guys who can be franchise players, who can be elite all-NBA type players, or that allow you to stack enough things up that you're able to trade for an established guy, an established star who may be looking for a change of scenery or whatever the case may be. So just because you ended up with 4 first-round picks a year ago, we still don't know. I'm not ready to say these guys are busts. I'm not ready to say either that you can hand them the keys to the franchise and pencil it in the Rockets are going to be in the NBA Finals 3-4 years from now. You still got to see what exactly you have, and you still want to get more opportunities to go and draft a high-caliber player and see if they ultimately blossom into what people think they are, whether it is a Jabari Smith or a Jaden Ivey, Chet Holmgren, either of the Duke guys, AJ Griffin, Paulo Banchero. Just because those are all the highly touted guys and the guys who are likely to go in the top 4, 5, 6 picks in the draft, there's no guarantee that they are going to, they themselves, turn into all NBA caliber players. So that's why, even though it was a tough loss for the Rockets, not just yesterday, but their first game back when they were visiting Orlando, another one that went down to the wire, it may be the type of thing that ultimately, bigger picture, you're kind of nodding your head and saying it's a good thing we got those extra ping pong balls come lottery time. So that's what's going on in the NBA. Of course, we will have much more on U of H. We will have much more from Texas Southern, who is also playing for first place on the line in the SWAC in men's college basketball. They're in action, set to get going in just a couple minutes. So we will have those highlights for you tonight on Fox 26 News at 9. As always, for all the most up-to-the-minute updates, news, scores, everything you want to know in the Houston sports scene, make sure you are following our sports director, Mark Berman. You can find him on Twitter. He is at Mark Berman, Fox 26. That's going to do it for this installment of the Fox 26 Sports Stream. We'll do it again next Monday night, just after 7 o'clock. Till then, take care, everybody.